Hi and welcome to another video here on my channel, Morbid History. Today we're out in the woods, as you can tell, the Swedish woods. And today we're talking about the Skogsrå. So let's start with the most important part. What is a Skogsrå? Skogsrå translates like a quick translation into a forest guardian. She was basically like a trickster, sexy lady running around the woods. We're gonna get into some of the stories later on, but she actually originated, we think, from some Old Norse goddess of the woods. And with Christianity, as I talked about in the last video, she of course evolved and just became a folklore creature instead of a goddess. People out in the villages in the 1600s, which are the earliest historic records that we have about her, would think that she was both a good spirit and a bad one. What did the Skogsrå look like? That differs actually from northern Sweden to the southern parts of Sweden where I'm from. Where I'm from, in Småland, she usually was a very, very beautiful lady, of course, because she wanted to entice the men out in the woods. But she was only beautiful from the front part. Oh, I'm gonna try to climb here a bit. Wait. Can I? Satana perkele satana. Yes, I came up. Look, it's pretty here. Either way, she was beautiful from the front, but from the back, in southern Sweden at least, she had a back of a hollow, rotten tree. So that wasn't very nice. And in the northern parts of Sweden, she usually had a tail. Either a cow's tail or a fox tail. You know, like those Japanese fox ladies, kind of like that. It was also said that she could have like a bit of an animalistic face. She could remind you of a fox too, in that sense. In many stories I've read, they compare her to the slanted, foxy-eyed look. An important thing to note about the Skogsrå was that she was neither bad or good. It all depended on how you treated her. For example, there's a story about two hunters that went into the woods. And they ran into this beautiful, beautiful lady. And both of them were lucky enough to spot her tail sticking out from under her skirts. One of the hunters was very polite and went up to her and said that, "Excuse me, I can see your petticoat." The Skogsrå was very happy with him, and she asked to see his gun, or his rifle. And she blew into it and said, "This is a very good gun." The other hunter wasn't as polite or kind, so he went up to her and started teasing her, yelling stuff like, "I can see your tail, I can see your tail." And you can guess what happened. She took his gun, blew in it, and said, "This is a very bad gun." And then she disappeared. Of course, the polite hunter had very good luck with hunting after that for the rest of his life. The less polite hunter, well, quite the opposite, as you could guess. Since the Skogsrå has been seen as a very erotic creature through the centuries, when they started painting like national romanticized art in Sweden in the turn of the century and a bit before that, of course they always drew her nude. That was not actually the case. She was usually seen in clothing that did not fit her being out in these woods. She would be wearing like really fancy clothing. Someone said that she was dressed like a priestess' daughter. A priest was very, of course, rich in these times. So indeed, she was always very, very finely dressed. Even when she was out herding her own cows. That was like one of the ways you could spot a Skogsrå. She was looking way too fancy to be out there. A story that I think about when it comes to this is there was a little boy who was out on the market in his little village, and there he spotted a finely dressed young woman, like the fanciest he'd ever seen. But he also noticed that she had a little tail sticking out from underneath her dress. The little boy had been taught that he should be always polite to strangers, so he went up to her and also said, "Excuse me, miss, but I can see your petticoat." The Skogsrå was super duper pleased. So she actually gave him a little bag of money. And she told him that if he never ever spends all of the money in the little bag, it would always fill up again. So the boy was thereafter forever rich, or at least he always had a little pocket full of money. So that was nice. She could also be, as I said, a bit of a trickster. A trickster goddess, a trickster spirit. For example, there's this story about what was he? He was like some kind of miner or something. He was out in the woods and he got lost, walking around for a few hours until he met a fine-looking woman out in the woods, all by herself. She was, of course, very sensual and flirty with him, and he was cold and was not gonna pass this moment up. She told him that, "Please come, I live close by. You can just come in and sleep and eat at my place." He gladly accepted. They walked for a bit until they came up to a beautiful cottage. As we said, the Skogsrå is usually way too fancy for her own sake, so this house was so nice. And he walked into it, and it had the finest furniture, the finest wallpaper he'd ever seen, and a cozy bed. And of course, the Skogsrå was very like, "Hey, I wanna do you in my bed," and the man was pleased with that too. So he took off his clothes and placed them on a little chair beside the fancy bed, and he exclaimed, "Oh Jesus, what have I done to deserve this?" And at that moment, he woke up lying in a swamp. It was the Skogsrå that had enchanted his senses, and he found his clothing lying on a rotten...
There's children. There's some children shouting back there. I think I need to go somewhere else for a look.
Either way, he woke up in this swamp and he was just lying there all gross, and his clothing were placed neatly on a rotten piece of wood. So, and he could hear the Skogsrå laughing. as he tried to get up from there. So now we've heard different stories about our lovely Skogsrå, both good and bad. It's very important to always remember that it's not always black and white with these creatures. It all depends on how you treat them. I have one last funny story about the Skogsrå, but I'm gonna save that for my little walk in the woods that I'm gonna post on my Patreon. Yes, I have a Patreon. The cheapest here is just like $1, and you get access to the feed. Maybe not like all of the exclusive things I'm gonna post, but the video I'm posting today will be there for tier 1 too. So that's new. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. Like, I know that I have a hard time keeping a thread, but I try to be informative and fun. So I hope you enjoy. I'm always trying to evolve. And like I said, I just made a Patreon, so you can find the link here in my bio and in my link tree. I'm gonna be posting a lot of stuff there. Like every time I do new content, I'm gonna post it there. Sometimes I'm gonna make content that is just for my Patreon, just fun stuff. I think we can find something fun to do over there. Just make a nice cozy community. Yep. And as always, if you enjoyed this, just like, comment, subscribe. That would warm my heart to no end.